Hey friend, in this tutorial, we're carrying on from the previous week where we were doing a sketching tutorial on how to sketch figures and create a very whimsical, painterly, but not painterly because we're sketching, look to your figures. This week, we're gonna take that a little bit further and I'm gonna do a couple quick sketchbook sketches or illustrations using a micron pen and some paper of these figures in a landscape, talking briefly about perspective. There's a lot more in-depth lessons on perspective and vantage point inside my online course, The Art Within. So if you want more in-depth stuff on figures and landscapes and perspective and vantage point, check that out. But in this lesson, I'm gonna be doing some quick illustrations of fun figure examples in scenes. So let's dive in. All right, so in the previous lesson, we took and isolated figures and broke down the overall shape of how to sketch a figure with our carrot shape. And we also started to bend and manipulate our shapes to make them into these fun, kind of whimsical, playful figures that you can place in your sketchbook scenes, or if you're doing like today, we're gonna be illustrating with a micron pen. And then also in the following weeks, I'll show you how to paint them individually and then also in a scene similar to this. So let's practice a few different quick scenes that we can do. I'm using a size 03 micron pen. These are my favorite pens for illustration. And I'm just doing really quick exercises to get loose and warmed up. And also this is a really helpful exercise to do before you start painting your loose painterly scenes with figures in them so that you can just get thumbnail sketches down of what you want the composition to be if you're not using a reference photo. Typically, I like to use reference photos or go out in real life and sketch a scene, a landscape. But for this, I'm just gonna do a couple different groupings of people walking towards the horizon and maybe have a little tree or some sort of scene in the background. So I'm first gonna start with the groups of people and I'm gonna do just some quick oval shapes. I don't like them to be perfectly straight up and down. I like the head to tilt a little bit. And we're just gonna do first our more blobby shapes. And maybe I have little feet going here and there. First little blobby shapes, and maybe there's like some kids over here next to each other. So they're gonna be a little bit shorter. So again, from last week's lesson, we are just doing these kind of blobby shapes and following loosely that carrot shape because people could have on oversized coats or sweatshirts or puffy jackets and make it feel, or they could be turned sideways and you could have this maybe as a little arm or an elbow. So all of these shapes just create the essence of the silhouette of the person. And this, obviously right here, we should either have them at the same level, but it's showing that somebody is walking off in the distance a little bit ahead. And we can create a little path maybe of where these little figures are headed. And just start to frame the scene or set the scene. Maybe they're walking down a little driveway or gravel path towards something. Maybe there's cypress trees. And I'm not worried about how everything is looking. The looser, the more playful, the more wonky, the better. And we're getting smaller and smaller with these cypress trees as we go down this pathway. And putting on these lines or hatch marks on the trees as well to just separate them from the figures in the scene. So super easy. And then we'll do one on this side. We're going above at the end of the paper line, so we'll want to do that on the other side too. Looks like a lovely day in the countryside of Italy for this family. So such a simple, easy scene to create, but very beautiful and fun. And you know exactly what you're looking at. You're looking at some sort of path or driveway or something with these cypress trees lining them. There's probably the parents over here and kids playing often over here, walking alongside them. And that is our scene. This is our first scene of practicing and getting loose and also familiar with different scenes we want to try out with a paintbrush later. And then I can sketch in a little horizon line off in the distance and complete the framing of the scene as well over here with maybe an olive tree or something in the distance to switch it up, since olive trees are pretty common in Tuscany as well. I'm just being as jaggedy and loose with this. Kind of picture Shel Silverstein's way of illustration. And I'm gonna outline with these fluffy marks for my tree. Should have drawn the tree first, but whatever. Next time. And then we can say, hey, this is a tree, and accentuate it a little bit more with these hatch marks. And then another quick little tip for sketching or painting figures in a scene with a landscape. I'm gonna do a simple one again with a tree. I'm gonna start with the tree first this time. And we're just gonna, you know, create this kind of V shape, bloop, bloop, bloop. Here's the little land that it's on. And for understanding perspective and vantage point and all of that, which is super, super crucial for knowing where to place your figures in a landscape, my online course, The Art Within, is the best, most in-depth video walkthrough explanation I have on this topic. And so I highly recommend checking that course out if you really want to know vantage point and distance and eye level and all that kind of stuff in landscapes. So for my tree, I'm creating this kind of bean shape with my fluffiness. I'm going to go back in and add in some scribbles to the bottom, like crescent moon shape of just like the bottoms here. And I'm starting with big, literally just scribbles, like what you used to do in class when you were bored at school. And then I'll get smaller and further apart scribbles as I work my way up. So the bottom is more in shadow, and then we'll come up here to make this feel more round. And I want to curve this up a little bit more. Like so. So now we have a fun scribbled in but looks so detailed and really fluffy tree in the distance. And I'm gonna have two figures just kind of walking hand in hand. So we'll start with our first figure over here. And now let's take this shape and manipulate it a little bit more. And I'm gonna do more of a concrete upside down U shape. And maybe he's got his little hands. You don't even need to put hands, you can just kind of leave it like that if you want. And we'll just, maybe he's got on some barrel jeans, which are weirdly popular right now. Don't know why. Little collar. And we'll put in a little kid or something walking beside, shouting hooray. And then I'll clean up my lines and just darken the outlines. Like so. Little shoes. This is literally what Miles looks like, my son. When you're holding hands and walking through a parking lot, he just like doesn't stop jumping around and moving. So very accurate. So now we have a group of people walking towards this tree. To show a little bit of distance, I'm gonna do another person, but further or closer to the tree. Maybe right here. So they're gonna be about eye level. The grown-ups are gonna be eye level together, but the body for this one is just gonna be a lot shorter. He's got his hands in his pockets right here, he or she, and is ahead of them by a little bit, walking towards this tree. Little striped sweater. So there you go. Practice a few different scenes over and over and over again. The more you do something over and over again, the more you'll refine your skills and you'll get used to these shapes. And then it will be a lot easier for when you pick up your paintbrush. There you have it. I hope that was fun for you. I love painting and sketching and illustrating figures. It's one of my favorite things to do, especially just doodling out in nature or on my art retreats that I do abroad. I love to bring a sketchbook along and just sit at a bench at a park and sketch or paint. These little vignettes and little scenes, they're so much fun. If you fill up an entire sketchbook with these scenes, it can be really fascinating to look back on. And if you want more in-depth lessons on perspective and vantage points and how to design a scene and all of that, composition, color theory, etc., make sure you check out my online course, The Art Within. It's really in-depth and very thorough and will basically have you feeling like you just completed art school. So if you want to check it out, it's jennaraney.com/the-art-within. We'll link to it below, and I will see you in the next video.